Good evening to all you wisdom walkers out there. This is Jojopah Maria and Saroma coming to you with another edition of Wisdom Walk Talk here on my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self Mastery. Well, to those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, aren't you so happy that spring is showing up? Finally. And in some places, they're getting summer. Like in Arizona, they're already in the hundreds in their temperatures. And we haven't even gotten out of March yet. Yeah, all that kind of craziness. But I'm very grateful to be here with you tonight. And without further ado, I will open up my program as I always do with honoring the ancestors. And I always start with my teachers, Malidoma and Sobonfu Somé from Burkina Faso, land of the proud ancestors. And I invite you to join in this invocation and call out to your ancestors. You can say their names, they love that. And yeah, let's open this up in a sacred manner, in an appropriate manner to share this wisdom and information to help us master ourselves more completely. Shay. So, Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is, may the ancestors hear our prayers. Ancestors, 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 we call out to you at the opening of 2026 and thank you for guiding us safely through our personal and collective challenges during 2025. You've given us easy access to the wisdom we have gained and enable us to use this wisdom as we enter this new chapter on our never ending journey of self mastery. Enable us to become peaceful citizens and stewards of the new earth, daring greatly to live out our new narratives and knowing that these are divinely scripted for ourselves and for our world. This year, we again ask and thank you for granting us access to our higher timeline, where we know that unconditional love is the ultimate reward for our self mastery, and that happy endings are our birthright, and we can learn to experience them daily. And most importantly, ancestors, thank you for continuing to enable us and support us in moving forth from the dark ages of modernity by placing our heads below our hearts, valuing people over profits, and always choosing love over fear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Amen. Ashe aho asa shinga bismillah. So it is. Ashe. Yes, yes, yes. Got 2 comments already. Let's see what we got here. Juanita, hello, my dear. You must have gotten back home, I hope. And yeah, we'll check in later. Wonderful. Hi, Emily, SP 720, no, 732. Good evening to you as well. Thank you for being here. Love it. Love it. Yeah. So, you know, tonight I am going to put out this third collective annual commitment of grief and praise. And it's one that I have been wanting to do for a couple of years. And hold on for one second. I got somebody else checking in. Hey, Divine Aries. Wonderful. Good to have you here. Love it. Love it. We're getting the party started. And so grief and praise, again, something I've been wanting to do, but it's about the right timing for it, I guess to say. And, some things had to come together for me to be able to really present it to you in a way where I believe that it can be digested and that it will be nourishment for you rather than fear. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do tonight. I want to again welcome us all to this season of change. It is spring in the northern hemisphere and fall in the southern hemisphere. And March 2026 is the first nature year within this final water year of this decade. Now, last month we stepped into a new era of our collective human evolution and a new chapter of our personal healing and growth. And this month, we have begun learning how to experience our changes from a place of love, not fear. To navigate successfully through this mind blowing time we're in, I've offered having happy endings as our annual theme. And for March, as I said, I'm offering this theme about honoring grief and praise, our third annual collective commitment. And so I'm going to first start by acknowledging some of the collective events that are going on in the world at this time, the religious events. And so I want to first give a shout out to all my Muslim friends and again wish them happy Eid Fatir Mubarak, because, they completed Ramadan on the 20th. Yeah, right as spring came through. So welcome back, and, thank you for doing that important work that this religious holiday offers. Yeah, it's so powerful. Even if you're not Muslim, you get the benefit of it. And of course, there was so much tragedy for many people who are Muslims because of the war that is going on. So I've been sending up extra prayers that their faith is holding them and carrying them through. And of course, we're all praying for world peace continuously. Also, we are still in the Lenten season, and so for those of us that are practicing that, keep going. But pretty soon we're going to get to Holy Thursday, and Holy Week is with Palm Sunday next Sunday. Can't believe next Sunday is going to be Palm Sunday. I must be wrong. I am wrong. Okay, it's not next Sunday. 2 Sundays from now is Palm Sunday. And then Monday, Thursday, which is Holy Thursday, then Good Friday, and then, of course, Easter will show up on the 12th. So, again, stay the course, do the work. It's so needed now to be in connection with a greater order and direction for all of us. And I also want to remind us that we are still in March, so we're still celebrating Women's History Month. And if you haven't done something special or done an acknowledgement or show gratitude to a woman in your life, and if you are a woman like me, you also want to be doing some nurturing things for yourself. This is a time for divine feminine. And I have to say this really quick. I wasn't going to, but I am going to because I think it's important. I just saw a report by of a woman who, for 21 years, was taking. She's now 45, and she had been taking an injection to stop her periods as a form of contraception. She now is dealing with not one, not two, not three, but four brain tumors. So to me, that is giving us evidence that, a woman's period happens for a reason. It is a part of her health. It is not something that needs to be stopped unless you are having extreme problems. But to me, that should be the last resort. And I know because I had extreme problems, but that would have been my last resort. So anyway, I just want to share that because to me, it's a sign of how women have been pulled away from their divine feminineship and for not understanding why it is that a monthly period, a monthly releasing of blood that doesn't kill you, you survive even though you are bleeding, is a really important thing that connects you to your source. So in celebrating Women's History Month, I just want to honor that, what we do as women and with our bodies, our minds, and our spirit is essential to this world and to life itself. So, yeah, I just want to get that message out, spread that word if you know any young woman out there thinking that this is a good form of contraception because it's will kill you. It's not. Yeah. Hey, Daphne. Yes. Happy Women's Month. Absolutely. And then I also want to share that today is our monthly Earth Day. So it's a day for honoring our Earth every month. Next month will be the official global Earth Day on April 22nd. And I also learned that today is International World Water Day. This was started by the United Nations back in 1995, I believe, 95 or 96. And this is the first time I'm hearing about this. A shame on me. But anyway, happy World Water Day. And as you see in these posters that I'm sharing with you, this year it's about water and gender and saying that when water flows, equality grows. And also, as it says, the world dying for water every 90 seconds, that, things that we have here in Western culture, we so take for granted that we can go to the faucet and turn it on and water comes out. But that's not also the reality of many, 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 many people on this planet. So we want to be mindful of that. And if you do nothing else, say a prayer over your water and send that energy out, that, more of those of us on the planet can get access to clean water on a daily basis. Ashe, absolutely. Yeah. Juanita says, me too. So, let's dive into this. First, reminding you that here are our 5 collective commitments with our annual collective theme of having happy endings. And I've been encouraging you to look at what are the things that are happening on a daily basis where you have a smile on your face because it occurred. For me, it's just getting out of bed and standing up without falling down. That's a very happy ending for me. Absolutely. So we're up to the third one with our wisdom walk talk, and that's what we're doing tonight. I'm going to focus on honoring grief and praise. Honoring grief and praise. Yeah. And what I first had shared with you is that grief is praise because it is a natural way love honors what it misses. Having happy endings requires honoring unhappy endings. And so tonight, that's what I'm going to be talking about, the higher purpose for unhappy endings, something we all hate. My quote for tonight comes from the great Melodie Beattie. She's a pioneer. She was a pioneer in self help. She died last year at age 76. But boy, her book, oh my God, I always recommend it to everybody. Everybody should read Codependent No More. And I found this quote, which I think is really helpful for us in what we're doing tonight. She says, "Our strength will continue if we allow ourselves the courage to feel scared, weak, and vulnerable." Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And that's bringing home the point I'm going to be making about how we have to accept our unhappy endings if we're going to get to the happy ones. Yeah. And the unhappy ones bring all of that. They bring fear, they bring weakness, and they bring vulnerability. Yeah. So here's my overview for tonight. I'm first going to talk about unhappy endings from a higher perspective. Then I'm going to share with you some of the wisdom from Martin Prechtel, that wonderful Mayan trained shaman, about grief and praise. And then I will give you a contemplative exercise. Yeah. And in this picture here, you can see that I threw in the tower in tarot. And if some of you are into tarot, I hope after what I share tonight that you won't be as afraid of the tower card as you normally may be. Yeah. We can give a higher perspective on the tower card, on the tower tarot card. Yeah. So I just put this card in because I just love this picture. I just love this picture of these entities, these spiritual entities standing around the globe and sending down prayers. It's just one of those beautiful pictures I've ever come across in terms of depicting, how we are really, really part of something greater than what we can see, and that we are really being helped because we need it. We really are being helped. So I just love that picture. And then the other picture is about what? Yeah, it's going on that wisdom walk. It's going through the 5 elements, and there's always a challenge when we're going through them. There's something unhappy that's coming for us. But here's the higher perspective. So first, let's start talking about what are unhappy endings. I'm just going to share a few examples. There are many, many, many more. Excuse me. But these are ones I think, especially in the postmodern world, that we seem to be dealing with often. So, death of a loved one, surprising loss of a relationship, surprising health issue, unexpectedly being fired or laid off, being betrayed or scammed by someone you trusted, losing a competition, not making a passing grade, not being accepted into a college, program, or community of your dreams. Your house or apartment burns down, or you get evicted. You lose at gambling or playing the stock market, and any other unwanted material, physical, or spiritual sacrifice or loss that you may experience. And you'll notice here with the unhappy endings that it is something unexpected and something surprising, or it's something that you've been working toward a goal, but then you don't make it. Yeah, like, not that's not a happy ending. That's not the ending that we wanted. Exactly. And so it makes it really, really challenging. I write about in my book, The Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery, when I'm talking about this issue of happy endings are our destiny, about one of my biggest unhappy endings, which was not getting into music school of my dreams and being in a position of not knowing what I was going to do, how I was going to do, what I was going to do. I went into such a deep depression in the second half of my senior year. It wasn't funny. And the only reason I got into college was a counselor, college counselor that filled out all the paperwork for me. All I had to do was sign my name. They sent everything in because I was just done. And that's what unhappy endings can do to us. They can just like suck the air out of us, and throw us into a pit, throw us into a hole. And so, some of why I'm talking to you tonight about unhappy endings at a higher perspective is because I wish somebody had told me about that. Yeah, because it's painful. It's really, really painful. So I think when we have a higher consciousness, of course, then we're more able to get through it without hurting ourselves or hurting someone else. So, to give you this higher perspective, I came across this really cool podcast, and I told these 2 women through YouTube that I was going to give them some promo because I was definitely going to use what they had talked about, and it comes from Pamela Gray Daniel. She's this incredible wellness and leadership coach. She wrote a book called Healing Our History and Co-Creating a Culture of Oneness. And she so gets it. She's just amazing. And I heard her on the podcast called Heartful Wonders, presented by Vladka Bortnik, who is the CEO and co founder of Marco Polo. It's an ethical video social media app that is an alternative to corrupted platforms because she doesn't do advertising, she doesn't have any algorithms. It's like just giving you a clear channel to communicate. And I use it a lot with my family and some friends, and I just love it. And when I learned this about her, she came over here from Ukraine when she was 11 years old, and just her story and just her understanding of life, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing, amazing." And I want to tell everybody about Marco Polo because she's the right kind of business person that you wanna be dealing with. And I will put a link to this video, the video podcast in the description box below my video when I get to do that either Monday or Tuesday, but you will appreciate this conversation that they have where these 4 levels of consciousness are talked about. And so here's my rendering of them. The first level of consciousness is called victim consciousness, which we all know about. And this is life happening to you. We don't know who we are, and we believe we have no choice. We take everything personally. Yeah, I know that one very well. And then the next level is manifester consciousness. This is life happening for you. We begin to learn who we are by manifesting what we prefer to experience in life. And I can remember when I was stepping into consciously manifesting and having so much fun at how magical life could be when I was letting go of thinking I had no choice and I just had to be in a victim mode. Yeah. And remember, these are levels. These are levels. This is a developmental process that we go through. So the third level is called channel consciousness. Life is happening through you. We begin to learn our purpose in life by aligning with a greater order and direction. We believe we have a sacred contract. And this is also about opening up to really living on purpose, living your purpose, wanting to be in align with your purpose. And this notion that, I am co-creating, I am, in partnership with my God, with source energy. Yes. So it's a wonderful level. It was a very, very wonderful time for me when I stepped into this and discovered this back in 2000. Yeah, 26 years ago. Absolutely. And then this next level that they talked about is called oneness consciousness. I usually call this unity consciousness. This is about life is happening as you. We become one with life by integrating the previous 3 levels of consciousness to grow ourselves beyond our core wound, to become authentic and responsible for how we react or respond to life. We experience what we believe about ourselves and about others. Yeah. This is when it gets really interesting because you ain't got nobody to blame anymore. It all comes back to you. And the other thing I'll say about oneness consciousness too, it's that you have to be more considerate of others because they're being a mirror for you. And you're also saying there, but for the grace of God, go I. So you're able to be more compassionate, more understanding, less engaging in folks that, really just are not at the level of consciousness that you're at. You let go of the competition, all of that. Yeah, it's a very powerful place. And I think it's a place that we consciously learn in this fourth level. Yeah. And so in essence, at the level of oneness consciousness, unhappy endings are messages from a greater order and direction that it's time to go on a journey to heal, to grow, and evolve. It is understood that happy endings are designed to ground and plant you, and unhappy endings are designed to uproot and move you to a new experience. If we ignore the call to experience, accept, and embrace the unhappy endings, we will never be able to experience, accept, and embrace the happy endings in life. Woo! Just sit with that for a minute. Just sit with that for a minute. Mm, yeah, this higher perspective, and some of you out there listening, I know this is hitting you. I know this is hitting you. Yeah. Hey, Miranda, good to have you here as well. Yeah. So from my personal story, um, it was when my mother died, and my mother was God to me. Let me be very clear about that. She was my God, and I didn't realize how much I was imitating her. Some of that was for childhood. Look at me, pay attention to me. I'm not getting enough attention. So you start to imitate your parents so they can look at you. And yeah, hold on. I got some comments I do want to share. Hello, Ms. McCullum, 513. She said, yes, it is hitting me. Uh-huh. I understand. I understand. And hey, Kathy Brown, how are you? Thanks for being here. Yeah. So when my God died, my human God died, I was just at a total loss. And what saved me from not following my mother into the grave, by growing a cancer, um, number one, I had a wonderful spiritual guide at the time that said to me, you can follow her if you want. It's your choice. And also, I'd already stepped into my spiritual journey, and I realized that this was an opening for me to really go out and learn more about who I was as a shamanic healer, and that I needed to get off my mother's path and I needed to start walking my own path. Yeah. And this was totally about healing and growth and evolution on my part. Yeah, it was huge. And so I did make sure that I grieved my mother. I was very conscious about the importance of grief. And I was able to get myself into spaces and places to be supported in doing that because we really do need support to grieve. Give you some more comment here. Emily SP 722 says, I'm in this now. Mom died on 12/26. Wow. Wow. Can't honor or move forward because sister contesting the will, heartbreaking. Yes, Emily, this is the kind of stuff that can go on to distract us. Yeah, and I'm honoring her in other ways. Exactly. But it can definitely distract us from answering the call to heal, grow, and evolve. Yeah. And the grieving, it can distract us from the grieving too. Yeah. Because at the time I was in the sibling rivalry with my sister, who's 3 years older than me. You may have heard me talk about her. Yeah, so at that time we was not getting along. So it was really tough. It was really tough. And so I was able to, take off and get on my journey and not carry other people's pain into what I needed to do for me. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's no joke. So, the outcome of it, when you do answer the call, is that you will be able to become more of the truth of who you are. The unhappy endings really do uproot us and move us forward. Yeah, they really, really do. If we allow it. If we allow it. And that's why I'm always encouraging people I work with, if you haven't really grieved a loss, whether it was of a person, a job, a relationship, an animal, whatever is going on, um, you're stuck. You have stuckness going on, and that can show up in both ways emotionally, in life being a little more suffering and struggling, and it can also show up in a physical ailment. Yeah. Unstuck, uncried grief, unmoved grief likes to form tumors. Yeah, it likes to do that a lot. But let me give you some more information from Martin Prechtel, and it'll give you some more about this combination of grief and praise, 'cause until I listened to this video audio that Martine did, and now you can get it through YouTube, I had no idea about how grief and praise are conjoined and why grieving is so essential. And grieving is not just, "Okay, I cried at the funeral, or I cried when I heard about it." No, no. If you really grieve, you're gonna look ugly when it's done. When you start breathing again, you're gonna be really ugly. Yeah, because this is about I mean, that's grief. Yeah. And you only do it for who or what or something you love. Absolutely. So let's go. Here we are. So this is Martin Prechtel. Quickly about his background. He grew up on the reservation in Taos, New Mexico, in the Pueblo. His mother was First Nations. His father was Swiss. Yeah. And so here he was, this half-half on the reservation going through it. And he gets to a point where he leaves and starts walking south into Mexico, ends up on a dock in Guatemala where this shaman looks at him and says, "It's about time. I've been waiting for you. What took you so long?" And then he goes to this man's village and begins to learn this incredibly wonderful indigenous wisdom and lifestyle, which he's written several books about. And this information on grief and praise comes from a book. I think he did the book after he did the talk. I think so. But it is The Smell of Rain on Dust. Yeah. And these pictures you're seeing here are done by him. So he's also a visual artist. So here's some key takeaways from that book. It says modern culture suppresses deep human nature and the art of grief. Grief is natural, necessary, and an obligation to life itself. Our first song is grief, the primal loss of birth. So, in other words, when the baby comes out, it's got, "Ah!" Yeah, it's grieving. Love it. Young infatuation is grief for the divine, not just the person. Love that. Grief is praise, love's way of honoring what is missed. Community or nature is essential for real grieving. Ungrieved loss becomes toxic, causing addiction and generational haunting. Woo! Revenge is frozen grief, manipulated for power and gain. An ungrieved war creates a black hole of loss, demanding more violence. I'll read that one again. Ungrieved war creates a black hole of loss, demanding more violence. Wow. Wow. That's the answer to, like, why are these certain places, like, always in conflict, always violence going on, always battle, and that's because nobody's taking the time to grieve. No one is taking enough of the time to grieve and to let go. So it's like he says, this black hole that just sucks you back in to the same Same story over and over and over again. Yeah. So now let me give you some points from the talk and the video. Again, I'll leave that in the description box below, and you click on more under, the information, it'll drop down. And this is from that talk on grief and praise. If you do not grieve who or what you love, you are not able to praise who or what you love. Grief is a form of praise for life, what you miss, what you love, what you lost. True praise includes the feeling of grief. This is honoring and accepting mortality. When you're grieving for the thing you got, it's praise. When you're praising for the thing you lost, it's called grief. Grief is not sadness. It's not depression or suffering. Depression is a lack of grief. Grief and praise are conjoined. You can have one, you cannot have one, it should say, without the other. And how does this relate to unhappy endings? Yeah. Grieving equals acceptance of unhappy endings. Wow. Yeah, wow. Because especially here in Western culture, we try to run from the pain of loss. We run from the grief. It's scary. And I'll tell you, if you don't feel supported enough, you won't grieve. No, you really won't grieve. Hey, Hector. Hector's saying, resonating as always. Depression is also selfish thoughts. Yeah, because you're sucked into a hole because you haven't let that energy out. You're holding on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Depression is a lack of grief. Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful. And again, you do need to have support in order to feel safe enough to go there to where you ugly when you finish crying, like you can't move, you can't think, you just, yeah, you need support to do that. And that's why I think we're headed into, especially in this age of Aquarius, a greater understanding about what community is really for, you know? Because as my teacher Malidoma would talk about, if somebody died in his village and the drums would play to go out, the call, people would come from all over, even if they didn't know this person, because it was an opportunity to do grieving. Yeah. So it's kind of understood that, we're always going to have some kind of loss going on, something unexpected, something done to us that is unhappy. And so we need every opportunity we can get supported in getting that grief out. Yeah, yeah. And somebody who's listening on here tonight, her name is Juanita, is in the process of setting up some grief rituals that people can access. Yeah, because it's so, so, so important to get support, to get the support that you need to do it. Absolutely. And it's not intellectual, it's not rational, it really is being able to, just be totally vulnerable, but held and supported to be able to do that. Yeah. And it's again, I can't tell you how important it is. And in, Western culture, in what we're in, I call it we have to walk our grief because in indigenous world, and Martin Prechtel talks about this in his Mayan village, if somebody dies, that's going to be at least 7 days of 24 hours nonstop grieving. And you have people who are called the whalers. I'm really good at being a whaler. I'm really good at doing that. And these are people that just know how to just let it start ripping, let it start getting out. And they incite other people to be able to start grieving. And the drums are always playing, there's a fire always going, because that's between us and the ancestors. That's the gateway. So somebody's taking care of the fire, then they're barbecuing some goats. So when it's time to eat, you got a little something to eat and you stop and you eat. You might take a little rest. People keep the fire going, the drumming going, others keep dancing. And then you get back up and you start all over again, rocking and wailing, crying, shouting, pulling your hair out, and you get that for like a good, long enough period to be done. And then there is a year after that person died, you come back together and you do what's called an ancestralization. Yeah, because it's believed that their spirit is bound to the earth for at least a year before they're really ready to move on. So, in that time, there's more preparation and letting go, letting go. And then you do the ancestralization process, which is another 24 hours, for I think 3 or 4 days, but that's to really help that person really move on and to help us move on, you know. So think about that. We haven't done that in this culture. We stopped doing that. So how are people grieving? How are people getting supported in their grief? How are they getting able to understand how grief is praise, and praise is grief. They're conjoined. Yeah. So I call it we have to do walking the grief. We have to walk our grief. And that means we have to be conscious that we're grieving. And when my Miss Sarah died, the woman I lived with for 3 years, the nonagenarian, she died at 97. Yeah. I made sure I wore black for 40 days. And that was so that I was reminded I'm grieving, but also that people who saw me, or came over to the apartment understood I'm vulnerable right now. Be gentle with me, be kind with me. Back in the day, women did that. You wore widow's weaves, they called it. You wore this black, for like a year, sometimes longer than that. And men would put a black band around their arm. You'd have a black wreath on your door because people would know, oh, okay, they're going through it. They're going through the grief. Because just it being acknowledged makes a difference. And think about too how many people are experiencing a loss, not just as somebody who dies, but losing a job, you know, losing a friend. There's all this grieving that's going on, and it never gets acknowledged because you're like, oh, I shouldn't have to grieve this. Let me just get on my clothes and go to work. No, yeah, we've got to grow our community, y'all. We really, really, really do because we need so much help. Yeah. Hey, Nora's Light, respect the process. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another sister that knows about grief. Absolutely. Yeah. Emily says one of the most important grief work for me was with Sabonfu. Yes, yes. Sabonfu's a nature person, and nature people really take a lead with that because they're all about change. They're all about that things have to die and things get reborn, and that we're constantly growing and evolving and moving. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Hmm. What a world we'd live in if that occurred, right? If we got the type of support that we need so that we could grieve and be supported in that. But until that happens, just know that you can walk your grief. That means being conscious of it and letting people know that. So Emily, thank you for sharing with us that your mother just died because you are walking your grief. This is a very powerful time for you. Yeah, very powerful time. So, I'm sharing this because I want you all to be aware and to be working on how do we grow community to support us with grief and praise? How do we how do we do this? How do we make this happen? And of course, it first starts with us. Yeah. We got to start with ourselves. And so here's some contemplative questions just to get, the engine running and for you to be contemplating and thinking more about what is it that you have not grieved, but what is it that you have grieved? And how has that impacted you? Absolutely. So here we go, contemplative questions. Think back to at least one, you can do more, but at least one unhappy ending in your life and contemplate the following. Were you able to grieve and accept it? Remember, grief equals accepting the unhappy ending. So were you able to grieve and accept it, or are you still disturbed by that situation? And that is why we get into suffering. We're suffering. We haven't accepted. There's no mm, there's no salvation going on. Salvation to me is the end of suffering. We're still in the throes of it. So think about that. Next, if you have accepted it, what or who supported you in doing that? Really important to be aware of. And if you've answered the call from the unhappy ending, remember it's a message about, come on, time to go. How have you healed, grown, and evolved as a result of it? And if it still disturbs you, are you willing to let go of your suffering? Another important question. Yeah. And I tell you, I've come across several people in my work, especially when I was doing ritual on a regular basis, where they were carrying around bones, they were holding on to ashes of a deceased person, um, they were holding, the room that the person had died in, like like they were still alive, they hadn't cleaned anything out or moved anything, it's like getting really stuck, and, that's not okay, that's not good. Yeah. The universe doesn't like stuck stuff. It doesn't like it at all. So, yeah, really something important to think about. And then, what supports do you believe you need to accept, embrace, and answer the call to heal, grow, and evolve? Yeah, yeah. And again, I'm talking not just the loss of a deceased person, but from a job. Because, like I think about all the forest national parks people, all the people who were administrators and employed by the federal government that just got, last year, a job they thought that they were going to have for the rest of their life, their security, that rug was pulled out. And I think about those people and I really hope they get the message that the universe is saying, we have something more for you. And that's why you had to leave there, but there is something more for you. Don't think this is the end. It's a new beginning. Yeah. And that's how we want to really be thinking about it. Juanita says, suffering for me has been the resistance to letting go, letting the grief flow through me. Yes, my dear. Absolutely. Absolutely. And did I say this is hard? Did I not say this is really hard? And let's not make any joke, but this hard, and especially if you don't have support. I was very blessed. I had support. I was already connected to a shamanic community with Melodoma, and so when my mother died, I went right to my community, and the first thing we did was a fire ritual. So I was like, yeah, hair pulled out. It was great, on the ground, rolling around, all that. But still, I had to keep working through, moving through, all those emotions and the mud and, and it wasn't until probably about, I'll say, a year later in North Carolina, up on the side of a mountain. And for 30 days, I cried it rained every day. I cried every day. And on the final day, I went out, took all my clothes off, stood out in the middle of the forest, and just release, 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 release. Yeah. And then that became a turning point for me where I wasn't suffering from the loss of my mother. I was ready to accept, embrace, integrate it, and start really living on my life path. Yeah. So I'm just sharing that with you to say, yeah, it ain't easy. Yeah, Northlight says grief has its own timeline. Yes, sister. Yes, queen. And we have to respect that. We have to respect that and not try to rush it, not rationalize. Oh, like some of my clients will say, it's been 5 years, Jojopah. This can't be grief. And I'd be like, how many years were you married to this person? 30 years? What? 5 years you think you done? You know, yeah, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. Hey, Hector, you're welcome. My great pleasure. My great pleasure. That's what I'm here for. Make it real. Let's keep it real. But anyway, this is such an important topic that we're talking about this year, especially because there's so much change, there's so much shifting in our world right now that there is so much grief. And if we ignore it, um, it's not going to be a good day. Not going to be a good day at all. Yeah, grief isn't an event, it's a relationship. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also, a very sacred experience, I would say, too. Yeah. It's a very sacred experience. Yeah. And so, those of you who are empathic like me, and when you get a wave of grief come over you for you don't know why, don't resist it because there is so much death and dying going on right now. There's so much loss in so many ways right now. Some of it's man made, some of it's not. Some of it's God just saying, hey, this got to go. This got to go. And so when you feel that, let yourself feel it. Don't tell yourself there's something wrong with you. I'm going crazy. No, 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 no. And always have some water handy. And getting water, keep flushing, rinsing, keep it in flow because whew, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. So, yeah, yeah. I'm hoping this is helpful for you, this higher perspective of unhappy endings and how, again, we do not have to be defeated, overridden, pushed into a hole by the unhappy endings. We can really begin to listen to the call for, right, our healing, our growing, and our evolution. Yeah. Yeah. And then we can have an appreciation for the unhappy ending. And that's different from liking it. If you appreciate something, don't mean you like it. No, but appreciate means you understand it had a purpose and it has done something for you. My mother's death when I was 44 when she died. That's pretty young to lose a mama. But I have such a great appreciation for it because I couldn't be here talking to you and saying what I'm saying right now if I hadn't gone through that. Yeah. So I get it. I understand it now. Yeah, absolutely. So I got 2 quotes for you tonight from Miss Sarah. The first one is, "Failure is impossible. It is an illusion. Nothing is a failure. Everything moves the human story. Hence, the progress of evolution forward. Everything advances you on your journey." Can I get a amen? And then life always supports us in where we prefer to be. Life always supports us in whatever changes we prefer to make. Ashe. Yes, 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 Mama Sarah. Yeah, so wonderful. Well, that concludes our Wisdom Walk talk for tonight. And as always, I want to take a moment to shout out to all of you regular watchers, listeners, and to all of those who have Wisdom Walk with me, and you know who you are. And to my family here in the Midwest, love you guys. To those on both coasts, love you all more. To my spiritual kin and my medicine brothers and sisters around the world. And those who may be listening or watching for the first time, I want to say thank you. Big thank you. I couldn't do this without you and your willingness to become a self master, and especially in terms of grief, to not have it keep you stuck in a place, in a time that you really don't belong. Yeah, we don't want none of that. So, upcoming for April for my live stream, Astrology for Self Mastery. I will do Wednesday, April 1st, because that's when we also have a full moon in the sign of Libra. And then I'll come back on the Sundays, April 12th and 19th to do the first half of the month, and then 19th will be for the second half. We've got some good energies coming up in April. It's going to be interesting because all the planets are going direct. So that means things are going to be moving forward. And in the sign of Aries, there's going to be 5 planets. Yeah. 5 or 6 planets, might be six. So that'll be a very powerful stellium and it'll have an impact on all of us. I'll do the elemental wisdom for, I'm sorry, it says March. I was not paying attention, obviously, when I was typing it, but I'll do that on Thursday, April 2nd. And April opens with a fire week. And then I'll return for the fourth collective commitment to talk to you about one of my favorites, which is the higher timeline, honoring that on Sunday, April the 26th. Yeah. So we shall see where all of this goes. And quick promos, Queen Reverend Adara, Heart for Healing Service. Go to our website, spiritismylife.com, click on events. And every first and third Wednesday, she does a lovely meditation service, which is open to all. It starts at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then to dear Juanita and her collaborator Amy Houghton, The Inner Ground Railroad, a 40-day journey to remembering soul and spirit. Available in Amazon, Kindle, Walmart, Abe's Books. And it is very much a great help to, again, just move us forward, especially when we feel stuck and feel like we are not liberated enough from things in life that we need to be liberated from. Absolutely. Shay. Mhm. Emily says, very validating. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. My great pleasure. And so, my dears, last but not least, I want to thank my God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the clouds and my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important work with and for all of you. Now, have a healthy and safe mineral week, communicating with others at a deeper level to experience your ability for compassion, understanding, forgiveness, and fifth dimensional relationships. Now, continue to strengthen your immune system and protect your nervous system by praying for others versus taking on their pain. And most importantly, do remember that you are not disposable. Why? Why is that? Because you are divine. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Blessings on your week. As a monk say, may you be well, may you be peaceful, may you be happy. And I'll see you back here again soon. I won't be live streaming for the next 2 weeks. I am gonna honor Easter as a day of resurrection. Something in me is gonna be resurrected. Woo! Can't wait. And, I'll talk to you afterwards. Be well. Bye-bye now. Don't forget to write this every day. Today is gonna be my peaceful day. You're welcome, Emily and Amanda.